Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Final Whistle with myself, Sanani Mangisa. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I've got the full pie here, humble pie. I'm going to have a slice of it during the ad break, but Kaizer Chiefs were comprehensively handled by Orlando Pirates. I called Chiefs for the win, but they got beaten 3-1. I was just quite happy to see 4 goals in the Soweto derby, but the result went the wrong way. Please remember to join in the conversation, hashtag Beyond the Final Whistle and tag @GridSports. Already from the past week, we can see that Orlando Pirates fans really got engaging. Now we're going to touch on a bit of cricket. I'm not going to go back into the last test match. There's a bit of sledging, bit of cricket. We got beaten very well by Australia. But I want to come into it to touch a bit on it, Pila. I'm going to throw this one at you as well. I usually say in a hockey team or a sports team, if you're carrying about 3 or 4 players out of form, it's okay because the rest of the team can carry. The moment you have more than that in a squad of 12, 13, you've got a bit of a problem because certain players now have to carry those that are on form. And that's, I think, what we're seeing in the Proteas side, is that too many guys are just not coming to the party. And then by the time you come into bat, it's not like you've got a solid base of runs. Is that the way you're seeing it as well? Or?
Most definitely, and I think if we look back to the ODI series, and I think that's when the rot actually started. Too many of our guys are relying on previous form. Dean Elgar had a fantastic 2017, but he hasn't brought that through to the 2018 season, and it's just a quagmire of disappointment within that Proteas setup. They really need to work on their batting. I think if anything, Dale Beckenstein needs to earn every penny on his contract right now.
I'm going to disturb you on Dale, because there's been a lot of question. Is he the right guy?
Look,
Duma will get you just now. I can see Duma frothing to say something.
Look, he's played a lot of first-class cricket before. He played lots of first-class cricket here in South Africa and in England. But coaching credentials, you kind of question, because he's been sort of, taken from a director of cricket role from a school side straight into a national role. So I think the disparity between the two levels is extreme. You probably ideally would have wanted him to spend a bit of time in first class cricket, get to know the players a little bit more before being thrusted into a batting role with the Proteas.
But guys, why is it when things are wrong we try to find a scapegoat? We're trying to find a scapegoat here, and I don't think Dale Beckenstein is the scapegoat here. He's not the goat here. The problem with the whole setup there's a disconnect between the entire coaching staff and that team. Something, even bowling at times during the test series. I think the rot started in the test series against India. We saw it. The first game we won in Cape Town was because Philander had a great game. The second one at Centurion, Ngidi bowled well, and the third one.
And also the Indians that just arrived.
Yeah, they just arrived. Yeah. So, and then we won a game in the one-day series by being lucky. We got lucky. I think that the problem is the entire coaching staff, not just Dale Beckenstein. I think it's Otis Gibson as a head coach. We hired a bowling coach as a head coach. That's the biggest problem right there. So now there's a disconnect with the overall performance of the team from batting, fielding, and bowling. So let's not blame Beckenstein. It's not his problem.
Duma, do we give him? Unfortunately, he's come in. Fixtures are what they are. He's come in at a time where you're playing India and Australia back to back. Do we give him time to settle with that coaching staff? Because that's going to take a bit of time.
But that's not an excuse, man. If you can't lose games like we've lost at home. Otis Gibson used to play for Border. He knows the condition here. We can't use that as an excuse, losing to Australia, a team we beat 2 years ago in Australia. That's not an excuse. The problem here with the head coach, there's a dysfunction there between him and the coaching staff and the players.
Toby, I want to bring you in here. When does it become a player's responsibility? Part coach, part players. And I think we see it a lot in football and those type of sports. We want to blame the coach gets sacked. But when do the guys who are in the big bucks being players have to take a bit of responsibility?
For me, I always blame the players. you know, the players are on the pitch. The players put in the effort at training. You can't blame the coach for a player who gets zero. You know, you get out first ball, second ball. If you put in the effort, you're going to get the runs. For instance, he said, Duma said that Gibson, he's a bowling coach. So what if you put in a batting coach? It's not going to make a difference. I'm not sure if you get what I'm saying.
But sorry, Bill, I'm going to say, at that level, there's certain things you don't need to be taught anymore. And I think that's, at that age, you're working on combinations, strategy, how we approach certain bowlers. You don't need to be teaching me not to leave the ball outside the line.
But guys, when you watch the Proteas, they don't look prepared.
Yeah.
They don't look prepared. They look like they're just going through the motions, bowling and batting, and sometimes fielding. We've seen a lot of drop catches throughout the summer. So my problem there is that I think we can blame the players. Yes, the players. It looks like some of those players we've got in the team are getting past their sell-by dates.
For sure.
And I think that, Duma touches on preparation. Preparation plays a big part in any team sport. And especially at a national level like that. I think if you look at the bowling, we can't concede 350 in the first innings and expect to come back and win the game. The bowling plans in that first innings we bowled to Australia were not up to scratch. I don't know if Mone Mokol is still hung up on the fact that this is his last series or not, but he bowled. I don't know. I don't even want to say it. He bowled. 2 lengths. He was either full or too short, and he bowled either side of the wicket. It was either on the leg side or on the off side. There was no consistency. Same with Rabada until the ball got older, until he got a bit of reserve, a bit of reverse sweep. But there weren't any sufficient plans to it.
Other guys lacking a bit of confidence as well, because that comes into play. You've lost the one-day series, you've lost the T20. Things aren't going too well. A couple of injuries. Does confidence play in it?
At the moment, I think that's the biggest problem we're having. It's the confidence is gone.
Yeah.
At least we won the Test series against India, but we lost the one days, we lost the T20s. Now it's been a habit of losing. All that's in the guy's mind is that we need to perform. Once you put that much pressure on yourself, you're going to
crumbles,
fail.
Yeah. And also with that confidence, unfortunately, if you don't have confidence against an Australian team, you're looking at you're gonna get into trouble, because
those guys chirp the whole game, and if someone keeps chirping and chirping and chirping, you're gonna crash. Guys, especially if you can't handle the pressure.
I've got a concern. I think we're gonna get swept in this series, guys. I think Australia is gonna maraud us 4-0 at home. and it's happened before.
And
it's happened.
We laugh about it now, because I called this and I said,
I look at the way our team is, and the reason why I said we're going to get marauded, Tobela, is that who are we going to bring into this team? This team stinks, and it stinks in all levels. Now, who are you going to bring in? Markram has exceeded my expectations, and I don't think he's an opening batsman. I think we need to stick him somewhere in the middle so that he comes in when the ball is older and he's got all the confidence. Now, who are we going to bring into this team in the second test and the third test? I mean, whoever will replace, I don't think they're going to be this good.
We don't have anyone. And the biggest problem is that, for me, the bowlers have been carrying us.
Yeah.
Throughout. The bowlers have been carrying us throughout. Our batting has been way below par, so we can't depend on the bowlers the whole time, which is what we've been doing. The bowlers didn't perform against Australia now. We're in trouble because our batsmen haven't been performing throughout.
Guys, with that, I think we're going to see a lot of ebbs and flow in this series. And something I want to touch on, which has been a topic for this week, is the sledging part of it. I'm for it, and I like it. It brings a bit of heat in this game. When do we start becoming a bit soft, where we say that's a little bit too much, or the match referees get involved? I think we saw, was it Stark versus De Bruyne? Yeah. That was, magnificent, because all he has to do is hit him for a 4 and a 6 and it shuts him up. Yeah. But I think maybe the off-the-pitch stuff was a little bit too much, but I think let's keep the fire going, man.
I think there's a fine line there, Sans. I think, and the line is very, very, very thin. And it also, if you're going to involve people's families, people's spouses, people's mothers, people's sisters, it does tend to boil over, doesn't it? But I think I'm for sledging all the way, and you used a perfect example, Stark versus De Bruyne. Stark versus Markram. Markram took it on the chin, and he produced the goods with the bat, and he let the bat do the talking for him. But I think as soon as you involve people's spouses, and we all know what happened between Sonny Bill Williams and Candace Warner.
We don't need to go there.
So it becomes a little bit too personal. But I think cricketers know they're intelligent people. They're not stupid people. They know that there's a fine line, and you can't cross a certain line between good sledging and just getting really personal.
But if my teammates came up the way Faf and Kagiso came out to the change room in that video, I'd be quite happy. Those guys were
ready to fight.
Faf was in his town. Kagiso is always in the mix of things, lately. I think he's trying to iron out that good boy image of his with a bit of street cred. He's trying to get the street cred within the cricket. Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll wrap it up there for cricket. The second test is going to provide some fire. I think this week on Super Rugby we saw something unprecedented. The Lions announced their team on a Tuesday and had a media shutout after that. I think I want to get your guys' take on that, guys. We're in an environment where journalists want access to the players, to the coaches. We as a public want to know what's going on leading up to a big game like the Lions Bulls. The guys, on the other hand, want to prep, want to shut it out. Where do we draw the line? I think Tuesday was a bit early. Media blackout on the week of such a big game. Everyone wants to know how the players are feeling. What's your guys' take on that?
I think that you obviously want less disruptions as possible as a coaching staff preparing for a derby like that. I mean, it's a trans-Yukscape derby between the Bulls and the Lions, and you want them to keep focus as much as possible. But I mean, in this day and age, and as you said, the technology is advancing, and we need as much access to the players as possible, whether it's one-on-ones and having video interviews, or just getting audio for them. But it worked to Suez's advantage. I mean, to shut out the media and shut out the rest of the world from their little bubble, and get fully focused for a big derby like that. I mean, the Bulls, I won't say that they impressed in their first outing against the Hurricanes. They scraped through 21-19.
There were some people who were calling John Mitchell a hero by then. No,
no,
there were a few people, no names mentioned. We can go back on the videos, no names. There were a few people who were saying John Mitchell has restored the Loftus Versford pride.
But I mean, you kind of, he comes with the expectation that he'll elevate this Bulls side that has been very lackluster for a number of years now. So I think Swayze the Brain played his cards very, very, very well. I mean, to play a guy like Mostert at 7 and have Andries Ferreira and a bit of bulk in the locks. You saw from the 3 tries that they scored off the rolling mauls, they had more bulk, they had more size than the Bulls. They drove quite well. Their set pieces were very good, and to use that to advantage where you shut out everybody and keep your players focused was really good by Swayze the Brain.
But can they do it for the next few months then? Are we going to be happy with that?
No, I don't think so. No.
But is it allowed though to have a media shutdown? I mean, there's a
responsibility to sponsors.
The sponsorship. Because I would think that there's a protocol to say such and such a day is a media day.
Yeah.
Do they? I mean, there should be a captain's run-in where the media is allowed the day before the game. Do they only have that in test matches? I don't think that was a ploy by Swayze. More than it was just, probably something. I can bet you something happened. One of the media people leaked something and he got angry and said, "I'll shut you down."
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's a technical ploy. More than, But most of these coaches are divas, guys. I think they.
That's also true.
Yeah, I know from my side as an ex-player, I would love a media shutdown.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't mind that at all. It's the guys who in the media who have issues.
What is it with players that don't want to speak to media?
The media sometimes asks questions that you can't answer.
Yeah.
Those are the biggest problems, and then the media ends up answering your questions for you. Everything is diluted. Now you can't basically defend yourself from those.
And also sometimes as a players, you get a textbook blanket. This is the way you should answer from your media liaison, and then by the time you're in front of a journalist, he's poked something that you didn't want to get into, and it's outside now of the book of how you should answer. So it becomes difficult when also some players are out of form and you're having to answer those questions about your form, meanwhile knowing that it's not getting better by answering these questions. So you can understand where he was coming from and where players would like to see it, but I don't think he's going to be able to do it for the next 2-3 months of Super Rugby.
No, he definitely won't be able to.
He won't be able to do that. I mean,
otherwise, you'll probably end up answering like Brendan Fenton did. I'm not sure if you last saw his interview a few months back, but yeah.
So a talking point from the Lions game was definitely the Lions maul. I think quite impressive. They really played that piece of the game quite well on Saturday. And just your take on that, gents?
I think that was prompted by the way the Bulls forwards played against the Hurricanes the previous week. So Suez didn't want to leave things to chance, and he went and fought fire with fire.
Of course.
The Bulls forwards really outdid themselves the previous week. I mean, they dominated that game. So that's why the Lions came in with fire, and the changes that Pilar mentioned worked for them.
And you would imagine that the Lions forwards would struggle this year because Johan Ackerman was mainly in charge of that aspect last year or the last 2 seasons where they were successful. So you would have thought that they would have lost that grunt and that grit up front, but they haven't lost lost any yardage from what Johan Ackerman did with the side for the past 2 or 5 seasons, and you see it now. It's a good stepping block. Guys like Joey Mangala have come in to assist Suez the Brain, and they have just fit it in like a hand to a glove. So it was a really good performance. They started against the Sharks in week 1. Where they dominated the Sharks in all aspects of forward play. The set pieces were excellent. Their lineouts were really good, and they have just carried on the momentum from the Jaguars game and now into the Bulls game. So, from the South African side, you kind of look and you think, well, the Lions are the ones that actually stick out like a sore thumb. The other ones are sort of in between, they're a little bit lackluster. You look at the Sharks, you look at the Stormers, who are getting a bit of a hiding overseas now. So, it was a really good forward performance.
I think we won't touch about the Stormers too much. I think going that side and playing Crusaders is tough enough, as it is. And I think the first 20 minutes, they just didn't show up. But Toby, I'm going to ask you a little bit about the Sevens. I think that's a bit of your background. You played there. There's an impending Commonwealth Games on the horizon. There's still the circuit that they need to do well in. So where do you think the kind of focus is at the moment? Are they already thinking about the Commonwealth Games?
Knowing Neil, he won't focus too much on the Commonwealth Games. Mainly for him now, it's taking it game by game and making sure that the next tournament the guys do well. They flew to Vancouver now. So his main focus will be on Vancouver, and then after that he'll start shifting his focus towards the Commonwealth Games.
Well, in your predictions for that, I think we've got England, Australia, New Zealand all play Commonwealth, and we should be good for a medal at least.
We should be good for a medal. I think we actually should win it.
Okay.
A lot of our players are injured right now.
Yeah, injuries.
A lot of them have also moved to Super Rugby as well. But I still think with the bulk of players that we have, we still have enough to basically win the Commonwealth.
Right.
But I mean, the depth of the seven side, you can see in play now. I mean, they lost Sinatla and Kwacha Smith to Super Rugby sides, and then they lost Ruan Nel and Philip Snyman through injury. So those are 4 key players out of the side, and they still finish within the 4 top positions. So it speaks a lot about the depth of the sevens program and where they are now. It's a very healthy sevens program. If you pull out those guys that I mentioned, and you put in guys like Zane Davids, you put in guys like Stedman Khans, you put in guys like Dylan Sage, who just came back from injury, it suddenly becomes a youthful side, but a side that you actually want to watch because they've got so much flair and skills. Yeah.
I actually think this was toughest tournament that guys have played in a long time. We struggled in the pool stages.
Yeah.
We basically struggled throughout.
Yeah.
We were never consistent. We were like, I'm 100% sure
we're going to win this
game.
year.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of sevens, though. You can ebb and flow within the tournaments and so quickly outside of the tournaments, just because it's that sharp, that quick. It can sway either way. You can say South Africa's good for it now, and then the All Blacks are also good for it.
I mean, they've still got a sort of a healthy lead at the top.
Yeah, I was about to
you
say.
know. They've still got a healthy lead, and they haven't, won. They've only won one tournament or two tournaments this year. So it speaks big volumes to the depth of this side as well.
Main thing is consistency.
Consistency, yeah.
You need to make sure you in the last round, semi-finals, finals.
Every time,
throughout.
just get
you
those
don't have
points,
to win every single time, but as long as you're making the semi-finals and finals throughout.
Touch on that sevens later on in the next few weeks as we preview the Commonwealth game. This week in the Premier League, we saw some interesting results, one of which was an Arsenal loss again. I'm going to poke Duma a little bit here. Who's going to go first? Arsene Wenger or Conte?
It should be Wenger, but it's going to be Conte. Look, the thing with Wenger is protected by ownership. Stan Kroenke is a majority shareholder of Arsenal, but you never even see him at the Emirates during games. And he's got too many irons in the fire. He's got the Los Angeles Rams. He's got a couple of teams that he runs in the States. So he's not fully involved with Arsenal, and he's not fully understanding what the fans are going through. So Wenger will survive for the rest of the season. That's standard. The problem at Chelsea, this latest implosion, I think the players have had enough of Conte. It started last year when he sent a text to Diego Costa, and this year it's David Luiz, and you can see now.
And Eden Hazard.
Eden Hazard.
He's not going to sign the new contract.
He's not going to sign the new contract. I mean, Eden Hazard was the reason Mourinho left. If you think about it was him, because it's Eden Hazard's team. So the problems there at Chelsea, I think Conte will go before Hazard. And you can see Conte doesn't care anymore. I mean, the tactics he played against Man City, he went full on defensive. On defensive. They didn't even try. If you look at the chances on goal that they had, they
did not have a single shot on in the first half.
But don't you think now the problem wasn't at Chelsea wasn't the managers at all? It was actually there's a faction of players that run the club.
No, I think that's a fair point. We all know a certain group of players can hold the change room.
Yeah.
And I think, if you ever had to see the Stamford Bridge change room, they are made to sit in language speaking countries. Yeah. And I think even that already inside
creates
a change room
creates
a divide. You should be able to sit anywhere and mix with the team. But we know when those guys want a certain coach out, they'll do their best and make sure they play towards that.
And we know when it started, guys. It started with Mourinho the first time around. He was successful, he won, and then after 3 years he left. They hired Ancelotti. Ancelotti won the league. Yeah. The very next season, the players didn't gel. Luis Felipe Scolari, same thing. And is it fair to call Chelsea a coach-killing team? Is it fair to say
that? You take the job knowing it.
No, but they are. With Chelsea, you can come in as a new coach. You take the team from 5th to 2nd. Chelsea's going to fire you. Yeah. Because you didn't win the league.
But on the flip side, if you look at Arsenal fans and Chelsea fans, the happiest fans are Chelsea fans. Because the management, if you look at Roman Abramovich, he's heavily invested in the club, he's involved. He's there, you see him at games. With Arsenal, Stan Kroenke, you barely see him. And part of the frustration with them is that everything, it's been a car crash for the last 10 years. I mean, this story...
I think some may say that the two coaches are going to survive for now in the absence of who else.
Yeah.
Who else is available?
I don't think there's anybody that's readily available to take the reins at either club at this moment. And I think, for Conte, you sort of understand his tactics going into that Manchester City game. If you open up yourself too much and try to attack City, you're gonna get 6 or 5. So you sort of understand that taking one goal as opposed to taking 6 is acceptable, but it's not acceptable
No,
because
but
now
no,
you.
I'm going to challenge you on that. Taking a loss is a loss. You're
A loss is a loss.
5 points behind Spurs, sitting at 5th place. You 6-1, 1-0. It's a loss these days, and it's not going to go down to goal difference because Chelsea are reality 5 points behind Spurs, and they're not going to get to Champions League position if they carry on like this.
Of course, but I think to save face, you need to save face. You look at Arsenal; they got put 6 goals past them inside 5 days by the same opposition. So what's better than, okay, you lose, but you still got a chance to make up in the other fixtures that you have for the rest of the
Yeah,
season.
but Pila, you're the defending champions of the English Premier League. You can't just go there and tap out.
But defending champions can't take 6.
Agreed, but also with Conte's negative tactics on Sunday, there was also a lack of the guys just didn't play.
Yeah, there's no
so
urgency.
you can have a defensive game plan. Look, when we win the ball, this is how we attack around it. They just were shadows. I think Man City, someone said Man City's probably had a harder training session, and I could fully agree. They probably had a harder training session.
Yeah,
The Chelsea players were walking at one point.
They were walking.
At one point on the pitch. So
You just can't do that. Like, he is going to go.
It's a case of, I think, the players are demoralized. They don't want the coach there. They want to make sure that he's out, and that's the bottom line.
And another thing, too, what has happened with Chelsea is that the season was not even halfway through, and we were hearing rumors that Chelsea have already approached another manager. So that creates confusion within the team. Because we heard before even the Christmas period that Conte is not going to be coaching at Chelsea. They've already contacted Allegri, who's currently coaching Juventus. So are they self-inflicted? We don't know what's happening at the club. But I think with all the money they have, Chelsea will be fine.
But I think it also speaks to the ambition of the club. You can't accept anything less than number one and winning trophies. With Arsenal, they haven't had that. They haven't had that for decades now, almost. So it just speaks to the ambition and the cutthroat nature of Roman Abramovich and how he determines what success is, and and that's why Chelsea have won the Premier League 3 times in the last 5 seasons. So you really want that success rate to continue, as opposed to keeping a guy because he has a good relation with the owner, or he's just a likable guy. If you don't win, there's a back door for you.
I think that's the thing. The lucky thing with being a Chelsea fan is that Roman is invested in the club. He's there. Unlike just a guy who's sitting in the States and not doing anything. I mean, the car is crashing. You need to change the driver. I mean,
let's bring it back over, but no, looking at a car that's potentially crashing as well. Kaizer Chiefs this weekend, 3-1, guys.
I called it.
You did?
I called it. I called it last week. I said, Pirates will carry the momentum from that cheaper United game. I mean, you could see. And the Pirates fans got into FNB and they galvanized the team. I mean, the Kaizer Chiefs the week before had a feeble game, a 0-0 draw. And you could see that they don't have any momentum coming into the derby. They just had the novelty idea of being the glamour boys of this country. Playing
derby, yeah.
So I called it. And 3-1 was,
Modest.
it was modest.
Well, Chiefs was very lucky not to lose by more.
Yeah.
They were on the back foot that whole game. I was flipping through channels. I was like, I can't watch this game. There was so much. They were just under pressure throughout. It seemed as if no one knew what the game plan was. No one knew what to do on the field.
And it also says a lot about the attack Pirates, because this was the first time that Kaizer Chiefs had conceded 3 goals in almost a year. We can go back to April last year, the last time Pune, conceded 3 goals in a match, and they've got the best defensive record in the league. So, it speaks volumes of how the tactics that Micho has employed, the tactics that Rulani Mokwena, and as a combination they've employed.
I think he's been a key. He's been a key in that coaching staff to just, we called it 3 weeks ago, they're just going to fly under the radar. Do they chase Sundowns, but do what they need to do each game?
And if you look at their schedule for the rest of the season, I mean, Sundowns have got a problem. They've got these CAF games. sandwich amongst the league fixtures.
Yeah.
So Pirates, they'll try and make a run for it. I mean, I think they've got a chance. I think Pirates, and we want that last game of the season where everyone is like this 1 point, you know. So I think Pirates have got a chance to win the league.
Most definitely, and I think that there's also an impending situation with Tendai Ndoro at Ajax Cape Town. Of course, he's played for 3 clubs in one season, so the PSL could sanction Ajax Cape Town, and one of those benefactors from the games that they could be docked points from will be Orlando Pirates for that loss that could be overturned into their favor. So you find them now coming from 4 points adrift from Sundowns to only 1 point. So they're going to have a really good run in now for the end of the season.
End of the season.
Yeah.
Where do Chiefs draw the line with Steve Compella? So we'll throw this on
It's
at
time.
you.
For me, it's time for Steve. The Chiefs hasn't won anything. I think it's the same case now where you're going to look at another Nelson Wenger and Kaizer Chiefs.
Yeah. Is he just in favour at the moment with the club management, and are they just giving it a little bit more time? What seems to be a sentiment there?
I think Kaizer Chiefs. I've never seen Kaizer Chiefs fire a manager mid-season. It's never occurred. Maybe there was a freak occurrence once, but I don't recall.
Something they do.
I think the management will give him till the end of the season, and after that they'll clean house like they should, because that house needs cleaning. You need a proper spring cleaning in that house.
From players to management.
From players to management, it needs proper spring, because it's as a fan of Kaizer Chiefs and who's been a fan of the club for a long time, it doesn't look good. It's really depressing to watch, and hopefully they clean house and then we can, because now if Pirates and Sundowns are on top, we're going to be the laughing stocks again.
Look, I also think he's going at the end of the season. He'll definitely see out the rest of his contract. He's got about 6 months left of his contract, which almost coincides with the end of the season. So he's on his way out, and I think he's accepted that. And he spoke at large about Buddhism and accepting his fate. His fate could mean that
Was
he
he the
knows.
Zen master now?
Yeah, his fate could mean that he knows that he hasn't done well. He hasn't delivered at a club like Kaizer Chiefs. Maybe if he was still at Maritzburg United, it would have sort of been at the position Chiefs are now. If he was in the same boat at Maritzburg, you probably survive for another season or 2 without winning any silverware. But it's Kaizer Chiefs, you Soweto Giants. There's a rich heritage of trophies, league titles, cup titles at Chiefs, and he hasn't delivered none of them. And interestingly, no coach has ever not won a derby, has gone 6 games without winning a derby. He presided over his 6th derby. He had
didn't
not
win it.
won a
That's a set
single
and a
one.
half, eh?
So it's one of those things where this guy hasn't delivered, but he's put a club, put really good structures in the club. But if you look at the youngsters that have come through, you think, okay, well, Steve is on the right track, but one thing is missing, and that's the most important thing, is those trophies.
Yeah, but that's what happens when management throws the dice when they're hiring a coach. We see it a lot in South African administrators. They go and let's try him out and see if he can work out. We try him out. He's got potential. I mean, you can't leave things to chance like that. That is what has happened to Steve. Is that the Kaizer Chiefs manager? Let's give Steve a chance. He's a nice guy. Very eloquent, speaks very well. Maybe this can translate to the players, and it hasn't, unfortunately. You can't just give people jobs because they're eloquent.
And on that, Duma, I think you when Steve came in, he was heralded as one of the few coaches, South African coaches, that have coached at Chiefs. So now it begs the question: do Bobby and the Chiefs management go abroad again to fetch somebody, or do they still look locally again? So and it also sort of puts a negative picture on our local coaches. You know,
Yeah,
it says that.
They're gonna go abroad.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I think they won't waste any time looking locally. They tried it with Steve, it didn't work out. They won't want to take that gamble again.
Because that's another 3 years you have to sign someone in a contract and keep him around.
I'd grab Gavin Hunt, but now Gavin Hunt will have stipulations because the problem is now most of the top clubs, lots of the coaches don't have carte blanche of what players they recruit, what to buy, the coaching stuff. So that might be the problem with getting somebody. A competent coach like Gavin Hunt would want to go in his own terms.
Yeah.
So now they'll have to go abroad to get a guy, one of these diva coaches, and then, you know.
He probably needs a translator
Gavin
half the
won't
time.
want that job on that basis.
The Gavin won't want the job on the basis. He knows that
Everything comes from the top.
Everything comes from the top.
Listen, we ship you out.
and then you're gonna get Bobby saying a few things in the press. You know, it's
It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
it wouldn't work.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, I think Steve and Arsene Wenger, same WhatsApp group. They're going to live to see another day.